I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. With us, a special treat, and also a guy who's become a friend of mine because he's been a guest. He is a filmmaker. This is his latest of many films about true legends, Holocaust of the Giants. We're talking about the giants mentioned in the Bible in Genesis 6, which is his production company is called Gen 6. He's also a published author. This is the latest. He's got had almost a dozen books, Unearthing the Cloud Eaters. Also, books on his True Legends series and other major books. This is also, we talked about this at one point, the Antarctica, which is starting to come out more and more about the civilization down there covered over in ice. He's an expert on Yellowstone. He came on and said that Yellowstone really wasn't the big problem, that California was the problem last time he was on, and the volcanoes out there. And sure enough, the USGA, the United States Geological Association, agrees with my next guest. He is Steve Quayle, also a 25-year radio host. Steve Quayle, thanks for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Well, Greg, it's so nice to be with you, and it's exciting to do the shows with you because, again, we're almost at the nick of time, at a point in time where the topics that you're covering couldn't be more pertinent or more prescient. So, this is what we've got to get across to people. We're going to talk about wars, rumors of wars, and the ongoing civil war in this country based on Saul Alinsky's rules of radicals that the left is embracing. And one of the things I think your listeners and all our listeners, viewers, have to understand is that we are not just facing turmoil. We are facing the dedicated and very well-positioned and financed overthrow of the United States government by former federal officers, by those in the military. And I want to read the 13th rule to radicals at Saul Alinsky, because you can see how they're doing this to President Trump.
Oh yeah, wait, before you go into the 13th rule, let me just back this up here, and I want people to see this. This came out last week in USA Today in the Thursday edition, and look at this this non-journalism propaganda, psychiatrist a buzz about Trump fitness. Oh, really? Any psychiatrist, MD, that makes a medical evaluation of somebody while watching them on TV and expects them for that to be a legitimate medical appraisal of somebody's mental health should have their license removed. That borders on quackery and also on sedition and treason to say this at USA Today, and then for USA Today to publish this kind of stuff, this kind of thought shaping is outrageous stuff to do. Any doctor coming on board with this ought to lose his medical license for saying stuff like that to the President of the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. But see, it's character assassination. And that's what people have got to understand. Now I've got to go into the 13th rule, because if you understand this is what Hillary Clinton, this is what the Marxists, this is what all of the Obama administration, they believe and are following this blueprint. Now, Saul Alinsky dedicated his book, Rules for Radicals, to Lucifer. He said at least he got his own kingdom. Lucifer was the biblical and the prior name to Satan. Satan or Satan means adversary. Lucifer, the light bringer. So here it is, the 13th, Greg. Pick the target, President Trump, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. Cut off the support network and isolate the target from sympathy. Go after the people and any of the support, any of the institutions. Now, I got to move the screen over a little bit here, but the point being is that's what we're watching. And this is the killer statement. People hurt faster than institutions. The fact that these monsters, and that's what they are, these media monsters, these mongrels from hell, those who would make the hounds of hell jealous for their vicious appetite, going after the president's son, going after his wife, who's got to be one of the most lovely, intelligent women in the world. And I say that and stand by that just from how she carries herself. And, listen, these people can't even speak English, let alone 5 or 6 or 7 other languages. But here's the deal. I'm concerned with the treason, the treachery, and the total assault upon the military. When you see all these people turning their backs on the president, former NSA, former CIA, former DIA, military commanders, everybody refusing a direct order, kick their sorry butts out. And again, I would say this, Greg, to your listeners, all those of you who have any political clout, contact President Trump and tell him to bring back the commanders that Obama fired, and then fire the ones that are there now. We have been delegated in our military to a very dangerous position. As you know, even Susan Rice, the former national security advisor, who made $50 million on a $170,000 a year salary, is questioning whether the president is mentally capable of having the nuclear control of the nuclear suitcase. Now, having written about Cold War nuclear policies, what is tragic is that they're simply saying that this man is incompetent to defend the United States as they gutted our country's military, as they gutted our country's finances, as they absolutely raped, pillaged, and plundered their way through the last 8 years. So I'll tell you, Greg, I'm pissed. And you should be too. The people that elected Donald Trump, they were electing a man who could identify with them. But the corptocracy, the globalists, the elitists, and everything that Alex Jones, everybody has railed against, they're now mad. They do not want any populist uprising unless they control it. And how is it, Greg, that George Soros, and I said this, if America doesn't recognize that Soros is committing soricide against the United States, that's a collective suicide by funding those people, how is it that he's not in jail?
They ought to go after him using RICO and the Patriot Act, the NDAA. He is an enemy of the state. I mean, that's just outrageous. And the other thing about this Charlottesville thing, and even people like Ryan, well, there's no both of them. It's just one of them. So you're for the communists. You didn't hear of Pol Pot? What did he kill? 5 million? How about Chairman Mao? He killed 20 million in 1 year. How about Stalin? These are Antifa are communist. This is communist rules for radical. Who Hillary was all for. That was her hero, Saul Alinsky, and his hero was Lucifer. And we're talking about communists here. So you're down with the communists that have killed, 100 million people in the last, 50, 70 years or whatever it is? This is outrageous. This is a lesson. I don't have any love for the Marxist communists, and I don't have any love for the KKK or the Nazis, but hey, they are equal in evil. I mean, this is evil. This is an evil force trying to. And what is the KKK? 1/1000% of America's population. But they want to say all people that voted for Donald Trump, black, white, yellow, brown, Hispanic, Scandinavian. They're all white nationalists. They're KKK and Nazis. That's outrageous what they're doing.
Well, and the American people have got to stand up. Look, I'm a realist. They can try and brand me right wing, left wing, never left wing, right wing. I'm not even right wing. I am a realist. I'm a historic realist. I have the testimony of history on my side. I have the knowledge that those who have slaughtered so many people have somehow become elevated in the eyes of the revolutionaries. And
communists.
Communists. But let me say this. At the heart of communism is Luciferianism, okay? And what we're facing is a global takedown and takeout. Now, 100 million, Greg's a lot of people to kill. These monsters want to destroy everybody but them. And this is why the push to get the United States and Russia into a nuclear war. First of all, we have more to gain by not going to war with Russia. And can I tell you something? These sorry scientists, I don't know if they've got two moving parts, their mouths and their rear ends, and they're both interchangeable, and they'd be a surgeon's delight, who basically won't even deal with the deadliness of the radioactive and the ramifications of Fukushima, let alone these people that are pushing for nuclear war. America, you have no civil defense. Russia, China, everybody who's an antagonist of the United States believes in civil defense and believes in protecting their population. They state that let loose the dogs of war. Well, unfortunately, the dogs of war end up eating on the dead carcasses of those who just wanted to live normal life. Well,
Look at that. As soon as Steve Quayle started talking about Lucifer, imagine that, the Skype connection broke. Well, I've made an edit. He's back on. Sorry, he got cut off. Looked a little rough here. But I'm back on. Let's go back to Lucifer, that at the heart of communism is Lucifer, and that these people are following the Luciferian playbook. I think that's about where you were. Pick it up right there.
Well, picking up from right there, it should be obvious that when President Barack Entity made the statement that America is no longer a Christian nation, the everything about the educational system in this country, the financial system, everything has moved away from individual rights to state rights, but then even to global rights. And when I hear the horse manure about the United Nations saying that they're concerned for the potential. Most people probably don't know this. Go look it up to validate my information that America has already been divided into 10 regions. And they hope civil war takes place. So guess who the two leading ranking members are on the Security Council for the United Nations? It's obviously Russia and China. Now, look, I think that it's remarkable that people can't read beyond the BS, okay? But you're fed it in the news and the vomit brokers. And again, I want to make this clear to everybody. You're considered by the mainstream media, you're considered stupid. You're considered basically zombies. And so all they are is ultimately channeling you to their position. And they will bring you to the point where you'll say, yeah, it's better for everybody if I just die of starvation. Or if all of us, it's good for the world if 90% of the world's population is destroyed. And when you've got the richest people in the world believing that, believe me, you've got a problem. So it's a spiritual war. Lucifer is the ultimate rebel. His followers are absolutely ecstatic. Hollywood, the mask has come off. It's interesting, isn't it, Greg? Hollywood, that's made its gazillions of dollars, literally was the mask wearers in drama. They took on personas of different individuals to portray stories, but even they are now becoming openly more and more outspoken about their love affair with Lucifer and his plan to rule the world. So we're seeing every single day the vilification of anything that's a traditional moral, anything that has to do with our borders, language, culture, our heritage, our monuments, our statues. And look, everything is being defaced. And that's what the Romans did. When one Roman conqueror came in, he wanted to obliterate the other one. Same thing in Egypt. The pharaohs of Egypt would get so furious and angry at their let's say, the history they didn't like, that the first thing they did is want to go scrub the monuments of everything and then put somebody else's image on it. That's exactly what they're doing to the nation. That, listen, people can hate it. They can hate the word Puritans. They can hate the word Pilgrims. But the bottom line is this country was still the greatest country in the world. That was the envy of all the world, that provided the most individual freedom, that provided opportunity, and had a respect for the God of creation that was absolutely unparalleled any place in the world. And I think it's important for people to understand that when I say this is a spiritual battle, there's just an outflowing of vomit, and that's what I would call, what is it that they hate about Donald Trump? I'll tell you the bottom line. You see the President of the United States, a very powerful man, a very, brilliant man, and he's surrounded, but his head is bowed as people pray for him. He knows that God put him in there against all odds. And that's God's odds. What does the scripture say? God says, there's a Bible verse that says, though the whole world be gathered against thee. The whole world has been, if you will, summoned to battle that man. Now, is he a King Cyrus or is he Nebuchadnezzar? Obviously one destroyed the Jews and one released the Jews. Well, let me share this. God claimed to King Cyrus that even before Cyrus was born, he, the living God, called Cyrus and gave him his command to do what he did to free the Jewish people. So the point is, and allow them to go back and build. Here's the problem, Greg. And the problem is...
So they hate him because he believes in God. Well, they hate him because he believes in God.
They hate him because he believes in God, and he's acknowledging... Remember this, in the New Age, you can be your own God. Donald Trump bows his head, and he humbly asks for people, and he says it. He's on record. The most important words I hear people to say is, Mr. President, I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you. prayer changes history, Greg. And so let's go to what this world is going to look like. If they had their way, they want the nuclear, they being the Luciferians, the global elite, they want literally 90% of America's population to disappear, to be murdered, to just simply fade away. And the famous Deagle, D-E-A-G-L-E report talks about the population of the United States being down to 60 million in less than a decade or maybe 15 years. But the point is, you got to ask yourself, how does a country of 330 million, 350 million go to that number? It's got to either be biological or nuclear. So now we've got Kim Jong-un, who is, and this has everything to do with wars, rumors of wars. Kim Jong-un has been basically financed, the technology that's been given to him. He is a surrogate. And I think I've said this before. Terrorism, or the biggest threat or the biggest bully, always has somebody funding him. And that's what we're dealing with right now in the world. So that his threats aren't idle, especially when you understand what's taken place with even the U.S. Navy. Now, listen, I'm on record as saying this. I will not apologize. The Navy knows good and well why its ships are being rammed. And the latest one, John, son of McCain, by supposedly a Shanghai registered freighter. The American people have got to get smart on the modern warfare technology and the capabilities like plasma cloaking, meaning if you hit a ship or an aircraft with a radar beam to try and see it's there, the plasma absorbs the energy that's sent at it, the electromagnetic wave or whatever they're sending at it. But the point being is that we're now seeing, if you will, the complete fruit of the devastation of neglect and by intentional destruction of the U.S. military. Our planes, 50% of them can't fly. Our ships, and we're not only talking about this ship, the John McCain, we're talking about the Donald Cook. 3 times it got tagged by the Russians and it basically shut the systems down. Now, listen, I want to make this clear. I love my country, but every one of you treacherous monsters should understand your children and grandchildren, the same people that are buying you and bribing you, don't give a hoot about your kids or grandkids. So you got all the pleasures in this world, but you better know this. There is a God who has declared the day will come when your knee will bow and your tongue will confess that Jesus is Lord. Greg, you can't separate it. That's the problem. How is it that every radical is out there claiming this, claiming that, but they all have the same signs, look like they're printed by the same printing company, and they're distributed across the United States? Gee, who's doing that? And now you've got the situation where every man is turning on his neighbor. That's the definition of iniquity. In the Bible, the mystery of iniquity is lawlessness, where each man does that which is right in his own sight. You see, this is the biggest thing that I think the economic community, you interview them, I'm in that world, they don't get it. A lot of them are starting to get it, that this print money forever. You know why I like gold and silver? I'm not pitching it, but you know why? Because God created it. You know why I hate paper-based assets? Because it's a lie. It's basically, I'm telling you something exists that doesn't exist. Now, if everybody wants to believe the emperor's decked out in the newest Rodeo Boulevard attire, let him believe it. But if he's flat-ass naked, then he's flat-ass naked.
You know what I also think, though? I've noticed this fevered pitch. Now they're moving on to Trump's crazy, and all of his voters are white nationalists. I mean, this is propaganda. And even the Wall Street Journal berated the editor of the Wall Street Journal berated his reporter because they fired a guy who was asking the Federal Reserve tough questions about how they, stopped an investigation. But anyway, he was talking about how you're not being a reporter. You're not reporting. You're out there giving your opinion about things that are happening. Why don't we just report? But that's what they're doing. They've turned for Jim Acosta. What a disgrace! You're at the White House. What a disgrace! You're there to give your opinion about what happened every day instead of just reporting. I mean, it's just outrageous. If I was running CNN, the first person I'd fire would be him. But anyway, I digress. I don't have to work for CNN anymore. I have my own deal. But anyway, I digress. But I don't think it's working very well. It's not very smooth because the Mueller thing isn't going very well. Now we have Rohrabacher going over to talk to Julian Assange. He may give up the fact who gave him the information that he printed, that it wasn't a Russian hack. Even the Nation, the ultra-liberal Nation, says that we don't think the Russians hacked anything. That's not going well. I don't think this Charlottesville thing is going to stick to Trump. So all they have left, the Democrats, the communists, all they have left is, well, we're just going to have civil war. That's what they have left. They don't have any ideas. They're not going to make anybody's life. They're going to take down statues of Colonel Sanders and Robert E. Lee and fire people at ESPN that have the last name Lee. I mean, this is stupid. This is all they got. So it ain't working well. It's not working so well, is it?
No, and here's the thing. Bread and circuses didn't ultimately work for Rome because the Roman Empire fell. And, my opinion of the sports networks becoming so politically correct and so disgustedly contemptuous to any true American values, this is my opinion. The point being is that people are going to say, forget you guys. We're not going to pay some salary of some guy that makes $50 million a year to go play football or whatever. And by the way, I'm the quintessential non-sports guy, so I'm sure that I'm offending all the sports fans. But listen, it's more than sports. It's more than the political correctness. It is the central theme of all the media, which Marshall McLuhan said the media is a message. Everybody looks to the media to get a message. You don't get it. We have telepresence, and I call it hella presence, Hell, a presence. And the factor isn't it interesting that all these ancient civilizations that passed away got to the same, or actually destroyed in catastrophic judgment, I believe. But isn't it interesting when they got to the same point we're at in genetic engineering, all the advanced or artificial intelligence with robots becoming sentient, all these different things are really becoming more and more interesting. By the way, it sounds like somebody's just set off something in my area too. So it's fascinating, Greg. This is the first show that you and I have gone on together where you mentioned Lucifer, down go the Skype lines. You mention it, now alarms go off where I'm at. I think that's pretty much a metaphor, and probably a real-time metaphor, that, ladies and gentlemen, they want to shut you up. They want to shut us up. They want to shut us down, and you'd better start fighting. You better stand. You better say, I have enough of this horse manure. You better quit watching CNN, trash TV. And by the way, I guess I made ABC's editor's list of people that he doesn't like. Well, I thank the Lord for that, because ABC always bashing Christians, and I think we're at this point now where the battle lines are drawn. And hey, basically, there are people that will love this broadcast, there are people that will hate this broadcast, but it doesn't take away from the fact that the ramifications of the ongoing civil war that's taking place right now, and it's only going to get worse unless by an act of, I would say this, national repentance on the order of Nineveh, our fate in this country is sealed. Now, I'm not a fatalist, okay? Fatal. I'm a basic realist. What more can we say if nobody, and I would say this, to my knowledge, maybe you know an exception, you're a news guy, but CNN got its acronym because they always were taking the side of the left. All of the people have got to understand that Hollywood and the news media have a unique relationship with the intelligence agencies. The word television programming could not be more exact than we all have been programmed, unless I believe, unless the grace of God literally opens our eyes to see the spirit behind this stuff. I don't want the idea of streets burning. I don't want dead people in our streets. I don't want families broken apart. And I simply am sick and tired of these people denigrating the President of the United States, who's put more people to work. And listen, here's the deal. The former entity in the White House left it in rubbles, okay? He pillaged the place and our economy with it. So if the bankers didn't just print money until doomsday, and it looks like that may be approaching quicker, the idea is that we couldn't continue as a nation in debt.
Isn't there going to be a strike back against this. I mean, I'm going to have Mark Taylor on, the prophetic firefighter, who says that there's going to be a big backlash, a big strike back with all this. I mean, they're removing statues of Colonel Sanders out of KFC. I mean, this is how stupid this is.
It's so silly because then what do you do? What do you do? Spank your chicken? Bad chicken. Bad chicken. I love the recipe, but bad chicken, No, come on. It's ridiculous. And by the way, Mark Taylor has, for those who would criticize his biblical perspective, and I'm not one of them, I thank God for, his obedience. He said it like it's going to happen, and we are going to see this country. God's going to put he's going to separate the sheep from the goats, okay? But remember this, goats can make more noise than sheep.
Do you think they'll ultimately just crash? I mean, I was reading a statistic today, 78% of people live paycheck to paycheck. I mean, you talk about the country being financially weak. Nobody saves money. I mean, nobody saves, the Federal Reserve notes the debt. Nobody has any money. Most people, they live paycheck to paycheck. 78%. I mean, only 18% of people have any kind of savings is basically what they're saying. I mean, I think none of this stuff is working. I talked about this with Gregory Mannarino. I don't think this is working well. I don't think the Nazi thing's going to stick on Trump. I think that they're afraid he's going to destroy the voter fraud, that he's going to actually build a wall. He's already cut way down on the illegal immigration. He pulled us out of the Paris Accords. He's as Obama says, he's a crude nationalist, this idea of crude nationalism, right? So, I mean, they hate him. Might they just, I mean, the Mueller investigation's going nowhere. I think that's about ready to fall completely, has already fallen completely on its face. Might they just crash the economy early and not wait till 2018? They'll just do it this fall. A lot of people, including Charles Denner, thinks the economy will blow it out this fall, and people are going to lose everything that aren't prepared.
Well, I think that would facilitate the Communist Manifesto, the Alinsky Doctrine, because then who will get the blame for that? Donald Trump. I believe that's exactly what they want to do. Because, again, what's better than 1,000 radicals in the street? Well, 100,000 or 200,000, you name the number. And when the power goes out, everybody, I'm concerned with the EMPs that North Korea possesses, electromagnetic pulse weapons, EMP weapons. But we've learned that it's hackers that can do as much damage to shut down areas. So imagine, Greg, no money, no food, no McDonald's. Imagine, for the people that are used to only being able to deal with real-time food, no preparation, nothing. Imagine when everything's closed, there's nothing to eat, and they have a Big Mac attack, in my opinion.
And you think... You think that what are your handicap that? What are your odds of them crashing it this fall? A lot of people. I mean, I've said this before, but it didn't happen every year. Every fall I prepare, and it just doesn't happen. A lot of smart people said it should have gone down a long time ago. But I don't know. It just seems to be. I mean, I don't know if they're going to get this debt ceiling passed. I mean, you got Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan and Donald Trump. It's clearly at odds. Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell are absolute weasels for scolding the president. Absolute weasels. Who do they think they are?
That's like trying to work out a marriage and of compromise, and then you have the people that are there that have been setting you up to be destroyed all along. Listen, I don't understand.
Yeah. And I want to say, Mitch McConnell. So he had the health care vote. You mean Mitch McConnell can't vote? He can't count to 50? He didn't know that was going to go down in a terrible thing, and then sits there in front of everybody going, well, we tried.
Well, listen, can I tell you something? The Republicans are crybabies beyond anything. Not all of them. Thank God for Trey Gowdy. Other ones, Rand Paul. I love Rand Paul's position. Yeah. He doesn't care if the whole bloody Senate and Congress doesn't like what he says. He stands what's right. There are still people that do that. But the point being is that when you got pantaloons trying to control policy, and I won't even go there because I'm sure I will offend somebody. The point, by the way, Greg, it seems like anymore on talk radio, you say anything, you offend somebody, so we might as well offend them all and then force them to go and do their own homework to find out that this is really a whole different game. Now, I want to bring up something, too. There are so many foreign agents in this country. During the reign of scare and terror of the last 8 years prior to President Trump, There were so many people, spies from all nations brought in here, fifth columnists. And when you see, obviously, nothing but men, Middle Eastern descent, pretty much coming in with a few token women and children, the point is, you know this, that, Troy, obviously, they didn't recognize what a Trojan horse was. But we've got Trojan policies. And what I'm concerned about is the prepositioning of arms that when this breakdown comes, when the war is on, outside of the grace of God. Now, I'm going to say this. That's known in God's time. I'll answer your question. I would say outside of the grace of God, we will melt down. But I've been saying that in the fall just like you have. But what's interesting about this fall is now you have God's allowing the enemy to play his hand. These guys are openly saying, hey, look, we could have said we're this or that. And by the way, Hillary going to become a Methodist minister won't change the WikiLeaks revelations of who she's worshiping in her backyard. And I can guarantee you it's not the God of heaven or that the Methodist Church worshipped, and that's in WikiLeaks. So why is Assange? I want to talk about something, too. Why is Julian Assange and why is Snowden, why are they criminals? Look who's bitching about them. I'm sorry if that word's irritating. You should be more irritated about what's coming. Why are so many, complaining? Well, this is just a breach of national security. Then you hear Clapper throwing Donald Trump, the president of the United States, to the dogs.
The liar, the perjurer.
Yeah, the perjurer, and you hear all these guys, and you've got McMasters who's telling, if everybody out there who is a believer that watches this broadcast, pray that God literally shows, outside of any human influence, the people that are surrounding Trump that have confined him. He's surrounded by people that he believes are good men, but even when he says he's going against his gut feeling, Mr. President, never go against your gut feeling. It got you to where you are today. And there are people praying for you. And please don't allow these treacherous treasons. I call them jackals and hyenas, okay? It was a game in ancient Egypt. And what he's dealing with on the right side are jackals, what he's dealing with on the left side. And I'm talking right and left politically. I'm just saying they've surrounded him.
And we go back to the prepositioning of arms. You think that they prepositioned arms in America. So when things finally go down, and you're saying that God's going to allow these guys to play their hand. Let's talk about that. Stay right on that track.
Okay. Yes, and I believe that the allocations that were absolutely off the charts for the Department of Homeland Security, buying billions of rounds of ammunition and all the snipers' weapons. I used to be in the firearms business, so I kind of pay attention to those things. And the thing is that there's never been an accounting where that is. How about, Greg, all of the weapons that have been stolen? How about all of them that have been pillaged, plundered off the different bases? But the thing that is the most important statement that I want everyone to remember is this, that the entity was formerly the president, basically stated that he needed a private army equal in strength to the military. It's my contention that that army exists still, waiting for its commander and thief to give the order. Now, you can say that, but since when do Americans put up with a former president having a war room to make war against a sitting president? Isn't that called treason? Isn't it called treachery? Isn't it called aiding and abetting? I mean, listen, here's the deal. There are no laws any longer except the ones that they want to use, and that which gives them plausible deniability or escapability. So the prepositioning of arms, and let me ask you this, how many people are in prisons that share the former president's religious view or his political view? Quite a few. And I won't even go there because, then that's another accusation.
So the prepositioning of arms, stay on that. Prepositioning of arms.
Prepositioning of arms. Where are those arms located? My guess they're located in major, close to major population areas, so that at the correct time, the people who are incarcerated, that are basically been trained in Revolutionary warfare, a lot of them are servicemen coming back who obviously, because they've been abandoned for whatever reason, but not to mention the 25,000 spies from China, not to mention Spetsnaz, Russia's special forces, not to mention DGI from Cuba. Cuba just started whacking. So the arms, here's the thing. people have got to understand that this is a fight for our national identity. What do they hate? They don't want you to be a white American. They don't want you to be a black American. They don't want you to be a Latino. And by the way, I love the days when everybody was an American. It was them who made everybody colorblind. And I would say this, that thank God, Ben Carson, God bless him. I met him. I have the highest respect for him. But he made the truest statement at the Republican National Convention. You know, he drew attention to the fact that Hillary almost worshipped Saul Alinsky and invoked Alinsky's admiration of Lucifer. So the thing is, ladies and gentlemen, you may not believe in the devil. You maybe think all this religious stuff is just mankind's too much peyote or too much LSD or whatever. But these people that are overthrowing the government, that allowed you your freedom, your liberty, they are the ones who have prepositioned not only arms, Greg, and I think this is the point we've got to cover, staying on track, have positioned the men and the women who are used to using them are here too. And when the go signal's given, God forbid, and I pray that America repents and turns back to the living God, and unless they do, it's going to be a hellstorm like no one can even put into words. And I think Jesus said it, there's never been anything like it, nor would be again. And if he didn't shorten the days, it's all over. See, this techno-utopia is wonderful until you realize that your cell phone is a prison cell phone. And if you talk about prisoners having ankle brackets, and I have a cell phone, I just leave it a lot. But the point is that everything you know, everything you do, everything you say, everything you think, everything's being recorded. Well, that goes true in the other realm too, in God's realm. And so the thing is that it's time for the people that are being, how shall I say this, marginalized, mocked, ridiculed, scorned, primarily Christians and primarily white Christians. Although now the war is on black Christians. I want to say this to my friends in the black community. Thank God for the black community pastors' boldness. I know many of you, and that you have stood against your own congregations many times. But when they stand for righteousness, that should embarrass unto repentance the cowardly white Christian preachers that are on television going, yeah, they should be ashamed of themselves, you guys, because I thank God that the black pastors, and some of them have been the most outspoken men of God and women of God, have come to not only the defense of the president, but also to tell those who are of their same race, look, this isn't a fight against the president and the Republicans. This is a fight against light and darkness. So, Greg, yes, there are prepositioned weapons. Yes, there are prepositioned warriors all over the country. Main thing is they have their areas that they're going to concentrate on. They want the most maximum effect of the maximum amount of death when it starts, and pretty soon the people that want revolution, will start killing indiscriminately, and we're already seeing it, I believe, law enforcement. And here you got President Trump standing for law enforcement, and you've got total revolution and reactionaries against it. There are a lot of prepositioned weapons, but not just in the gang's hands. I'm talking about strategic military experts and those who are trained in combat that are already in this country waiting for their country's go-ahead and approval.
Are we doing any good here? Is the alternative media, I don't mean alt-right or white nation or any crap like that, I mean just the media that is against the legacy lying propaganda, are we doing any good here?
Yeah, it got a president elected.
Yeah.
That is,
okay.
No, seriously. But here's the deal. You can't go back to your dead rear end attitude that now you've done your part. No, you haven't begun to done your part, And who was it? John Paul Jones? You haven't even begun to fight. You have to fight this in the in the arena of checking each one of those attitudes. But you know what? Look at the war that's on Christians now. Google, all of the major internet service providers, it doesn't matter if it's Twitter, Facebook, Yak book, all the different stuff. By the way, I call Facebook Faces of Death book. That is my opinion, because what people don't recognize is this, that they've got all your private information now. Facebook and everything, self-building intelligence dossiers. It was a dream come true. They don't have to spy on anybody. Everybody spies on themselves and then brags about it to their friends. And oh, by the way, if you partied hardy and got so loaded, so blasted, so drunk, and you go to apply for that job, and the guy's already done his work on your Facebook profile or whatever, people have destroyed themselves. And so information is the first thing that any war is fought on. And the first casualty of any war is the truth. That's why you brought up, Greg, propaganda. We are dealing with, yes, we have done good, but listen, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be shut down and shut out so quickly. And now it's financial, Greg. You know this, all of us who are on YouTube or whatever, and videos and advertisers were advertising. I guess here's what I'm saying. The financial war is already being waged in full force and fury against anybody who is either white, black, it doesn't matter, primarily white right now, but anybody who stands up for God, stands up for historical accuracy in the country. And quite candidly, there was a wonderful, wonderful video I put up by a black lady who was a historian, I believe, one of the Ivy League schools, who's just telling the true history of slavery and the true history of the Democratic Party. And I got news for you. When I believe this, that I believe there's going to be a taking off of the veil of everyone's eyes, and God's going to show the people, right or left, white or black, brown, it doesn't matter, just what a bunch of lying devils there are that pretty much control everything we do, everything we think, trying to mold us into this utopian pile of dead men's bones walking. And the people, I believe this, that under the grace of God, if America will repent, that doesn't mean I'm apologizing for somebody else's sin, but my own, and call on God. Listen, I've seen it happen in history. I have written enough books to qualify as doing a little bit beyond the average, well, I don't feel or I don't know kind of guy. The point is that we are at that point. This is pivotal. This is a crisis point. This is a nexus. This is the coming together. And I think that it's paramount that people continue to support you, Greg Hunter, USA Watchdog, and the economy. They will crash it at some time, and when they do, they're going to blame Trump.
Steve Quayle, SteveQuayle.com, a 25-year veteran, radio host, filmmaker, published author, historian, biblical scholar. Steve Quayle, thanks for coming on USAWatchdog.com in this really pivotal time. Thank you, sir.